All this week on the Morning Report, we've been bringing you our special report, Teacher Accused. It centers around the story of Christian Coble, a kindergarten teacher in Bucksport who was charged with assaulting one of his 5-year-old students. Coble contends that he actually went above and beyond to get help for his student, admits he went a little rogue in the process, and claims he was punished for it. Punished by what could be described as both a broken education system and an overburdened criminal justice system. Let's start this morning with education.
And I loved it and was passionate about it, but I couldn't do it anymore.
4 former educators, all of whom say severe stress drove them out of the profession they loved. Stress brought on by ever-increasing workloads and student behavior that ranged from disruptive to violent.
And when I was teaching special ed, I had boys that threw desks across the room in our resource room, and a boy threatened, put me in the corner and threatened to punch me.
And when they looked to the administration or parents for support,
I had a parent tell me one time that if she was standing there when her child told me to blank off, and he said he didn't do it, then she would say, yeah, he didn't do it.
When I started teaching, my administration would stand behind me. If a student said something, they were there to defend me. But that went away.
I stuck up for the victim of a bullying student and got written up.
I taught 15 years in 4 different school districts, and it was the same everywhere.
Did it feel like you were all walking on eggshells toward the end?
Yes, sure.
And that brings us to the case of former G.H. Jewett School kindergarten teacher Christian Coble. He says he never lost his passion for teaching because of the heavy workload or student behavior problems. In fact, he says working through behavioral issues was one of his favorite parts of the job.
And it's just so rewarding when you see one of your more challenging students start to have good days, better days, great days. That's just, it's wonderful to see when that happens. And being part of that is fantastic.
But Coble says butting heads with the administration took its toll and ultimately did him in. In the fall of 2022, Coble says he had been begging his principal for extra help in the classroom for one student who he says was so defiant and aggressive he was traumatizing the other students.
I had students hiding under playground structures to make sure that they could be safe from that other student. And I did not understand why, with 10 physical write-ups, 10 physical assaults on other students, that there was no help coming my way. That just seemed ridiculous.
So Coble sent an email home to the other students' parents asking them to bring their concerns to the administration. And the next day, he was suspended.
On the meeting where I thought I was going to get to come back to teach, I was shown the video in the same breath as I'm recommending you for dismissal to the board.
The video was of an incident in the hallway a full week before Coble was suspended. Here's what Coble says happened that day.
Earlier in the morning, there was another incident with the same student where he was running around the classroom, knocking kids' stuff over, screaming at them.
So the student, whom we've nicknamed Jimmy to protect his real identity, was sent to the principal's office.
The deal was he could come back into the classroom, but at the end of the day, he would get dismissed from the office with her. We come back in from recess. He's refusing to go down to her, starts throwing stuff up onto his cubbies, climbs up onto his cubbies. I clearly get the impression he's not going to go down there. In the video, you see me reach for a walkie-talkie. I call for help. I'm told no one's coming.
The police report on what happens next states that Coble put his hands on Jimmy's upper back and shoulders, kneed him in the lower back, and shoved him, a version of events Coble vehemently denies. He says he decided to protect the other children in the classroom by leaving Jimmy in the hallway until someone could come get him. First using his body to block the door as Jimmy pushed against him, and then, with one hand holding the walkie-talkie and the other on the doorknob, using his lower leg to move Jimmy out of the way so he could close the door.
Turns around, starts pushing back on me. I do one of those little forward things, just enough so he would clear the door, so I could close the door. And in the video, he doesn't fall. He takes 2 steps and does turns and does a Spider-Man crouch. His body never goes past 90 degrees forward.
As you already know, the fallout from that moment didn't stop with the effort to fire Coble. But for him, what happened next came as a complete shock.
That took me away when the police officer was standing at my basement door telling me there was a warrant for my arrest, and I got arrested in front of my children. Like, again, it was all surreal.
That's right, arrested, booked, and later indicted on charges of felony assault and endangering the welfare of a child. Now, again, to be clear, that hallway incident happened a full week before Coble sent home the letter that got him suspended. And according to Coble, nothing was said about it that day, the next day when the parents came in for a meeting, or the whole next week while Coble continued to teach. So who went looking for that video and why? Well, Principal Darcy Dakin has now moved on to another school and declined comment. Superintendent Jim Boothby has since retired, and we weren't able to reach him. All we have to go on is the police report, which states that Superintendent Boothby had launched an administrative investigation into Coble, and in the course of that investigation came across the video. Boothby then, according to this report, called Jimmy's parents in to view it, and they turned around and went to police. Coming up tomorrow, we'll tell you about the stunning turn of events when the case actually goes to court as we conclude Teacher Accused. And if you'd like to see all 4 parts of this series, we'll be releasing it on our free streaming service, News Center Maine Plus, right after our broadcast tomorrow.